He was Mr. Charm at first, and then he turned out to be Mr. Harm.
Everyone in the community loved him. He had so many friends. He could have had it all. But he chose, by virtue of his own actions, to throw it all away.
He told me that he loved them and, he would never do anything to hurt him.
Everybody saw Dr. Jekyll. I was the only one that saw Mr. Hyde.
And then a month later, everything started changing.
There were nightly fights, physical, emotional abuse was always in the house.
And I can really hear it to this day. I can remember the scream.
To have to go in there and close out 5 of those caskets, it was just, I just knew that there was no way that this is supposed to happen.
And I didn't even realize then that he was really stabbing her. I just got seeing blood.
Very, very violent, very, very loud, very, very physical.
I was continuously assaulted at least 3 times a night. I was being raped.
And he said, I grabbed her by the neck and I twisted.
I turned up and looked up and I was in shock. I was like, a gun. And the last words he said to me was, if I can't have you, nobody can. And he pulled the trigger and my head exploded.
I was at a very low point in my life. I had left my husband and my marriage had fallen apart. I was lonely, I was tired, I was hungry. I did not want to be alone, so I was looking for someone to make things better for me and for my son. I did find someone. He was perfect the first month. He took care of everything. He watched my son so I could get extra sleep. And then a month later, everything started changing. He was Mr. Charm at first, and then he turned out to be Mr. Harm. And what started happening is that I noticed I could not talk to certain people. I had to keep my head down because that meant I was flirting if I dared to look at another man. I was continuously assaulted at least 3 times a night. I was being raped. And whenever I complained about the treatment, I was threatened that I would be thrown up against the wall. And it would be best for me just to keep my mouth shut. The last month, I knew that if I did not get away from him, that I would die. He would wind up killing me. It's a sinking feeling to know that you need help and you probably will not get it. I found help through a church. I'm sad to say that I was out there for free winter boots for my son. They said that if you come to this transitional home that help women and children get back on their feet, your son will get free snow boots. And I said, okay, sign me up. And with all the stress that I had been going through, when they gave me the snow boots and they hugged me and my son, I told them that I'm a victim of domestic violence. I'm thankful that you've showed me kindness, but I need help because I'm tired and I can't fight anymore. I don't have enough sleep. I don't have enough food. I don't have a friend. The day I left, I was not even supposed to be at the shelter because it usually takes 2 weeks. But I had prayed the night before, and I said, and I'm very strong in my faith, and I prayed and I said, Lord, you are the Prince of Peace. You came to bring us peace. And the best present that you can give us for Christmas is we need peace, me and my son. We need a shelter, we need food, we need sleep. And we have a right to these things. And that day was the best day of my life. I took my son, we went to the library, and we twirled in the chair. And then we told the librarian, excuse me, but we're very sorry. We're just very happy today.
On September 30th, 2006, my mom got murdered by her husband. I think the time that they said was around maybe 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. She was a strong woman that inspired me to be the man that I am today. She was a single parent of 5, but she did what she could to take care of all 5 of us, which I know, looking back at it now, was very difficult. And I had went away to Baton Rouge to finish high school and to pursue college. And from what I knew, I mean, she was happy. She told me she was getting married. She was super excited about that. I mean, it was a couple of weird things here and there that I didn't really look into. One thing I did notice was he was kind of jealous of me and her relationship because we were real close. I got a phone call from my cousin, Mel Chalet, actually the day after. The day that it happened, I was actually off that day, felt kind of sick, surprisingly, not even knowing what was going on, but that whole day I just felt weird, just off a little. And the next day she called me and she was like, well, do you work tomorrow? I was like, yes. She was like, well, I need you to fly back home tomorrow. And she said, I got a plane ticket for you. I was like, okay. I was like, why? And she was just like, what do you see when you get here? And so I packed my bags. I called my boss. I told him, I was like, well, I don't know what's going on, but they told me I need to fly home. I was thinking, it was my grandma, but I called and, they didn't want to answer the phone, but she ended up answering the phone. So I was like, okay, well, it's not her. And, I was like, well, I talked to my mom the day before, so I was like, nothing can be wrong with her. And, just a bunch of things going through my mind. And I was like, well, if she did get sick and she did die, well, what am I going to do as far as taking care of the kids? And, because she always told me that's my responsibility if anything happens to her. We left the airport. She drove me down to Hampton Park. So the whole way I'm sitting there like, what's going on, And we got to Hampton Park. She told me, she was like, I love you. I was like, yeah. She was like, remember when we used to come out here and play? I was like, yeah. I was like, I just wish, my mind was just like, could y'all please tell me what I'm here for? And she told me, she was like, well, they're all gone. And I just said, what do you mean they're all gone? And she just named them, and I said, well, and I was just like, what? And she was just like, well, but they got him. And I was like, got who? And she said, Michael. And I was like, I just had to pause for a second. And I mean, it was a point where, and it's still that way, that my emotions kind of changed from, being from mourning to kind of a rage state, because, to have someone to tell you that they would never do anything to hurt your family, and you put trust in them, and they take everything away from you, it just kind of turns you a little bit. And that funeral was like just a burnt memory in my mind. I can walk those footsteps like it was yesterday. And to have to go in there and close all 5 of those caskets, it was just, I just knew that there was no way that this is supposed to happen in life. I was just like, this has to be a dream because this doesn't happen. To be honest with you, I don't know how many times I think about it a day, but I'm pretty sure it's not an hour that goes by that I don't think about it. And it's a continuous thing. It's nothing that I know I'm ever going to get away from, but I'm just hoping that I can take what I went through and just stop it from happening to anybody else, because I feel like losing just one life to domestic violence is too much. And the fact that I lost 5, just impels me to do more.
My father came here with the ideal American dream, and he could have had it all. He could have had a beautiful wife and 2 beautiful kids who would have loved him and given him the world. He was a very successful businessman, very charismatic. Like I said, everyone in the community loved him. He had so many friends. He could have had it all, but he chose, by virtue of his own actions, to throw it all away. There were nightly fights. Physical, emotional abuse was always in the house. He would grab her arms really, really tight to the point that there would be bruising left. He would slap her. He would hit her. Very, very violent, very, very loud, very, very physical. He, at this time, had some legal documents of hers, like her birth certificate and things like that she would have needed for the divorcing process anyway. So she asked him to give those to her. And he said, well, they're in my store. If you would like, we can both go to the store and I'll let you look for the paperwork. Justin and I asked if we could go with her, and she said, no, that's not necessary. You guys go to bed, you have school tomorrow. I'll grab the stuff, I'll come back, no problem. It's our father, and he's hysterical. He is screaming, he's crying. I haven't heard him like this, I think, ever in my life. He sounded out of control is the best way to put it. Just to hear the tone and the inflections in his voice was startling, and I said, Dad, calm down. Where's Mom? Number 1 is, where's Mom? And all of a sudden he goes, she can't answer the phone right now. She's busy. She's occupied.
Let me talk to her. Dad, if you don't let me talk to her, I'm going to send police there right now. I'm on the phone with 911.
And I hear something like, it would have been like my mom gasping for air, just like just a kind of creepy, croaky breath. And then I hear what sounds like paper shuffling, and I don't hear anything, and the phone goes dead. So I'm just sitting here, and I'm like, ma'am, the phone just went dead. I still haven't spoken to my mom. Please send somebody over there. I gave her the information, and she said that someone was dispatched, and we would be getting a call. He goes, well, she made me mad, and she was turned around, and I grabbed her by the neck and I twisted. And I said, okay. And he said, just calmly at this point, he was still shaking, but just kind of dead in my eyes, just calm. I grabbed her by the neck and I twisted, and she fell and she was out. And I go, okay. And the second time I was speaking to you, Tina, she woke back up. She rolled over and woke back up. And I said, okay. And then, Tina, I put my knees on her thighs and I put my hand over her mouth like this. And I'm just standing there realizing that my father is telling me that he choked my mother. And then she woke back up, and so then he proceeded to suffocate my mother. I'm sitting there and I'm putting everything together, and I'm realizing that the second time I was on the phone with him and I heard the kind of raspy breathing, that was my mom waking up from having been choked. And then the paper shuffling, he'd mentioned that they were behind the counter of the store that he owned. Paper shuffling would have been my mother underneath his body, trying to get out from under him while not being able to make a sound because one of his hands is on top of her mouth. I decided very soon after this happened, I can either be a victim and add another victim to this other than my mom, or I can soldier on and I can stand up for what's right and I can help other people using what's happened to us and no longer in that sense have my mom be a victim. It's a cycle, just like domestic violence is a cycle, helping people is a cycle, and breaking that cycle of hurt and pain that is so commonplace now that I think a lot of people tend to overlook it. It's the most beautiful thing, and it's the most beautiful way my brother and I could ever hope to give back.
On June 18th, 1991, it was around maybe 2 a.m. in the morning. Me and my brothers was asleep in our separate bedrooms that was locked from the padlock on the outside because of my stepdad. He had a control issue thing where, I don't ever really understand why the doors was really locked at that time. But we had padlock on our bedroom doors, and we was asleep. We woke up to hear my mother scream, was because they were fighting, and it was just like a very loud scream, and I can kind of still can really hear it to this day. I can remember the scream, and the next thing I knew, my mom was coming through my bedroom door, trying to run and escape from him. And she was bloody and was screaming, and they were still fighting and tussling, and I tried to help as much as I could. And then I went in and opened up my brother's door so they can be able to come in and help. And during that time period when we was younger, their relationship was like a love-hate relationship. One minute it was in love, and the next minute they was like fighting and hating each other. And this was like a daily basis. That night was just terrifying. But what we did as kids, we had developed our own safety plan to be able to help our mom. And at that time, we didn't have like a telephone or, to call 911 or whatever like that. So it was our duty that we had to be able to get out and to call 911, knock on neighbors' doors and stuff like that. But we never thought that, our plan, we would actually have to execute it. Where, we would send the little ones out. One go to the back door to go to this person's house, and the other one will go to the front door to go to somebody else's house to knock for help, while me and my younger brother, who was 14 at the time, we would be able to help fight him off, because my mom was very small, maybe 120, and he was close to 250, almost 300 pounds. So they were just fighting and just tussling, because when she came in, he was right behind her, was on her, and they was fighting, and I didn't even realize then that he was really stabbing her. I just got seeing blood, and was just ooh, it was just it was like this, like crazy, and I was able to trying to help her, and then when it got just too much of me, I was able, because all the commotion, it already waked up the boys. And when she was laying on the bed, in the mattress, and I was just getting the towels and stuff, trying to see where the blood stuff was coming at, and it was like a big gash, and I'm like, oh my God, and it's like, he stabbed her, but then it's not really like, no, this can be, and and I was just kind of just packing the thing with sheets and towels. I can just remember that, and it's like the blood was just coming through. And I think it was like my 10th grade year, me and my aunt, we got like arguments and stuff like that. And it's like one time I was like, I had some little allergy pills. I was going to pop them up. My plan was just going to pop them up. And just, maybe I was going to kill myself, commit suicide, and just go with my mom. Because in my mind, mentally then, it's like, she's somewhere and, probably in heaven is scared. Because, she needed me. Because back then, when we was coming up, it was like me and her. We was like the Bonnie and Clyde, the mom and daughter duo. Whatever she did, I did. I was like right there, And that was like the first time like we was apart, and it was like we was permanently was gonna not be apart, together. So I just wanted then to be with her. Everything just got too much for me. Then I started, drinking and taking the pills together because it kind of would smooth you over for a few hours. That stays in the front of your mind and back of your mind, because you got to remember that's your mama, that's your bread and your butter, and to watch your mama get stabbed 38 times, I don't think anybody will get up and say that they live a normal life. And if they do, there's one I need to meet them and figure out how did they do that, because for the last 20-something years, I've been really trying to figure out how to do that.
My name is Therese Dean Carnason, and on February 21st of 2010, I was a survivor of criminal domestic violence. He shot me literally right between the eyes. He didn't work, but 3 years of the 12 we were together. I was the breadwinner, and I was the caretaker, and I did love him. He was my second husband. That weekend was the weekend right after our 12th anniversary. And he would get easily frustrated. And he was very verbally abusive, mean. You're fat, you're ugly, nobody will want you. Why do you stink? I mean, just horrible things. And nobody heard this but me. He was always, I used to call it his Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Everybody saw Dr. Jekyll. I was the only one that saw Mr. Hyde. He slapped me upside my head, open palm, and hit me upside the right ear. And I heard a pop, and it hurt really bad. And I was down on my knees by that time, holding my head, and he had popped my eardrum. The force was bad enough. And he hit me 2 more times. And the last time he hit me was about a year later. I was pregnant. We were arguing. I don't even remember how it all came through, but I remember getting punched in the stomach. I remember him punching me, and I remember dropping to the floor and curled up in a ball, and I was cramping and crying and hurting, and I was thinking, I can't believe that this is happening to me. And when he realized what he'd done, then he was down on the floor trying to hold me and crying. He actually had tears and apologizing and begging and pleading. And I'm so sorry. I've never done that before. And no. And I ended up miscarrying. I had decided I was done. My few friends that I had left, that I had not totally shut off, were telling me, you have got to leave him. This is crazy, Macon. You can't live this way anymore. You've shut off your life. You're not doing anything for yourself. You're working, eating, sleeping, that's it. And they're right. I needed to. I made my decision that weekend that I was going to file for divorce and leave him. This would have been the 7th time that I had tried to leave him. And that Sunday I told him, I'm done. I want a divorce. And he begged and pleaded, chased me all over the house for hours and hours, pushing and begging and pleading, please give me another chance. Please give me another chance. Please. And I was like, no, I'm done. I can't do this with you anymore. I'm done. I got out of the tub and I was going to the bathroom. We had a long bathroom, and he came in from the bathroom door and pointed the gun at my face, and I turned up and looked up, and I was in shock. I was like, a gun. And the last words he said to me were, if I can't have you, nobody can. And he pulled the trigger, and my head exploded. I remember waking up on the bathroom floor, face down. I couldn't see. I could barely move, but I could hear voices. I could hear voices talking in the distance. And I kept thinking, why isn't anybody helping me? Because there was nobody there with me. And I've been a nurse for a long time, and, people on the scene of the accident or something happened, so I hear voices. Somebody's got to be here. Something's going on. And I just knew my head hurt horribly, and nobody was helping me. And I finally managed to say, is someone going to help me, please? And that's when I heard a female voice shout, oh my God, she's alive, get the medics. Then they came in and got me, rolled me onto a backboard and got me to the ambulance. Even now, it never stops. My head never stops hurting because the bullet entered literally right between my eyes. You can't even see it anymore. It entered right there. It healed into my eyebrow. There's still a scar there, and you can still feel the hole under the scar. Bullet went in and down, so it affected my optic nerve, and it went through my inner ear, and it's lodged in the back of my head. I have to wear a hearing aid, which causes even more pain. My head never stops hurting, and the light actually is painful too. So the first few years were very hard. If it wasn't for my family and my faith, I don't think I'd still be here. I think I would have given up.